Hello AQA students, we've done it for paper 1, let's now do it for paper 2. We're talking hot topic areas for you guys to weigh up in your revision. An extra 10% of your revision time I would recommend devote towards these topic areas, whereby if they come up you're laughing, hopefully you can write great essays and score even higher marks, but we're not disregarding all the other parts of the specification. So even if these topic areas don't feature significantly, you've got great content knowledge, just still write great essays for whatever questions do come up. But an extra 10% of your time towards these topic areas, hopefully you're good to go if these questions do feature. So let's get into it. Topic area number 1. Know your balance of payments very well. In particular, the consequences of a current account deficit. That question could be linked to the UK. We have a very wide and persistent current account deficit, but also to other countries like Turkey, where their current account deficit has caused major issues for their macro performance, but also revised consequences of a current account surplus. That question hasn't featured before, but there are countries out there like Germany and China who have been attacked for their large current account surplus. So know about the consequences of that as well. Next, know your exchange rates well in 3 different ways. First of all, the consequences or macro impacts, the links to macro performance of a weak exchange rate. Many countries out there are suffering from weak exchange rates. I use that term very carefully, suffering from. Most notably the UK. The pound has been weak ever since we voted Brexit, but more recently with the Liz Truss quasi-Kwarteng mini budget, the pound collapsed in value. Just generally poor macro performance is keeping the pound quite weak. But other countries out there, Turkey, because of their large current account deficit, a very, very weak lira, Argentina, a very weak peso, Nigeria, Egypt, Lebanon, even more advanced nations like India and Japan, seeing very weak currencies. So it's a major theme out there, many countries going through it. So knowing the macro impacts of it, the links to macro performance, a good idea. A currency that's been strong recently is the US dollar. So know also the consequences of an appreciation of an exchange rate. And then something a bit different within this topic area is that Croatia joined the Eurozone Monetary Union on the 1st of January 2023. So make sure you know your pros and cons of having a single currency, of monetary union membership, of Eurozone membership linked to Croatia's entry in 2023. Next topic area to weigh up is development economics. This is a big favorite essay area. There are a few areas that I would weigh up even more within this topic area. That is interventionist policies for development, trade versus aid for development, and also how in the UK we've been cutting government spending on foreign aid, knowing the impacts of that for developing countries. Next, macro policy, a beast of a topic area, but I've got my eye on supply side policies. Supply side policies are desperately needed in the UK economy to boost potential growth, predominantly just to shift LRES right. Potential growth in the UK has been horribly bad the last 2 years. No sign of it getting any better. We're in desperate need of supply side policies there, but also to reduce economic inactivity. Inactivity rates have been rising since COVID, worryingly high. So supply side policies to bring those down. Supply side policies to improve competitiveness of exports to boost productivity. All of these themes are relevant in the UK. So know how to analyze and evaluate supply side policies linked to those themes. When it comes to fiscal policy, go back to the Conservative Party leadership contest. That was back in 2022. The big debate back then was whether we need tax cuts or tax rises. So the pros and cons of tax cuts, the pros and cons of tax rises are worth knowing. Liz Truss and Kwarteng were very much going for tax cuts, and it caused so many problems, not so much the policies themselves, but the way they were announced. So there's a little theme. As Liz Truss lost her job, Rishi Sunak came in, tax rises then dominated in the UK, and that's where we are at the moment. Very strong contractionary fiscal policy. So the pros and cons of tax rises, yes, but generally just the pros and cons of budget deficit reduction, whether it's necessary, whether it's desirable, just knowing the pros and cons there is a worthwhile thing to weigh up, ready for a question if it comes up this year. And know that tax rises have been the dominant way for contractionary fiscal policy in the UK, but also there have been cuts to government spending, squeezes to government spending. I'm going to be releasing videos to guide you further with key fiscal policy themes in the UK, but also monetary policy themes, supply side policy themes will all be coming in more detail so that when you are weighing these topics up, you've got extra help along the way. And then on the monetary policy side, interest rates have been high, rising for the last 2.5 years. Knowing the impacts of that, the reasons for it, the arguments in favor, the arguments against is worthwhile. Could easily be an essay area this year. Next is I would weigh up the topic areas of unemployment, inflation and deflation, specifically knowing the consequences of those quite well. The consequences of unemployment, yes, but also the consequences of rising inactivity, given what I said had been happening in the UK, well, ever since really COVID lockdowns ended. So the consequences of unemployment and inactivity, worth revising heavily, but also the consequences of inflation, given how high inflation has been and persistent it's been for the last 2.5 years, but even deflation. Deflation was a threat in major advanced nations during COVID times, but there are countries at the moment who are suffering from deflation. So know that well. Next, make sure you're revising heavily the pros and cons of free trade. That question could easily come up linked to the UK's position post-Brexit, how our ministers have come out and they've said we want the UK to be a global leader of free trade. The way we're doing that is signing trade deals or attempting to sign trade deals with many countries around the world. So maybe a 25 marker linked to context of a free trade deal that we've signed in the UK. We're also trying to join trading blocs. We're a member of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So yeah, just knowing your pros and cons of free trade, there's some context that examiners might latch onto. But also how the rest of the world are adopting a much more protectionist rhetoric. Protectionist policies adopted by other countries have increased significantly recently. So again, the pros and cons of protectionism, know the reasons for protectionism, be able to evaluate those. We're good to go in case that question comes up. And the last topic area to revise well is that of financial market regulation. I know a lot of you here are not big fans of financial markets. You find the topic area quite complex, quite technical. It is, but it's not difficult to revise. I have a whole playlist on financial markets. Watch the videos there. You'll be absolutely fine. But the area is financial market regulation. Given instability within the banking sector during COVID times, more recently because of higher interest rates, it's triggered a wide variety of bank failures. So knowing the role of financial market regulation to reduce the risk of bank failure, to reduce the chance of systemic issues within the banking sector, but also just to promote greater, wider macroeconomic stability is the area to weigh up in your revision, that is for sure. So that's it, guys. Hot topic areas for you to weigh up in your revision. An extra 10% of your revision time towards these, but not disregarding other topic areas, so that whatever question comes up, you're great. Hopefully it's these, in which case you're laughing, you can write great essays, but even if it's not, you're good to go with whatever the question actually is. So thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned, loads more videos coming to guide you with your revision for final exams. They'll all be going in my revision for 2024 exams playlist. Watch them all, be good to go. I can't wait to see you in future videos. Thanks for watching, guys.